So our task was to provide a vision and strategy for a potential land-based social enterprise to supply goods to Coventry University. So our presentation, we're going to be moving from digital to a more analog type of presentation. So you could call it maybe an earthy pitch. And going with that, I'd like for you to imagine an onion, which is here. So our presentation will be acting like an onion in terms of, as it grows, layers of complexity will be added to the social enterprise. So I'll put this and I'll pass on to Sergio.
Yeah. So for the social enterprise to start to exist, we have identified three main pieces of the puzzle. First one is demand, and we have already identified the demand because there was a contract between Sodexo, a tendering contract that was signed a few months ago, in which it specified that Sodexo should try to provide as much locally sourced and sustainable food as possible. So that opens a lot of, actually it's up to 2,000 pounds per day in vegetables that they need to achieve. So then we have two other very important pieces. First is the farmers. Of course, we need someone who's going to provide this food because it's not actually enough supply in Coventry. So we have been suggested some stakeholders that could kind of step up and fill this gap. First is the Land Workers Alliance, and then also the Future Growers Program, because there's apparently a lot of people willing to start growing, so they could fulfill that. And then third, and very importantly as well, we will need some land in Coventry. There are different stakeholders that can provide land, like for example the Coventry City Council, where we have seen that there are some plots that even quite close to the city centre that are vacant and that could be used for agricultural land. Also, we've been suggested that some existing farmings in the surroundings of Coventry have some land that is in use at the moment because we can not find a way of taking enough using it correctly. And then, last but not least, there are some developers like Whitefriars who own a lot of land close to the city centre and are not that is not developed at the moment, but they could try to, we could reach an agreement with that. So the only thing very important with the land is that it should be long-term to kind of secure the sustainability of this social enterprise. Then, if we can kind of bring together three pieces, what we got is a social enterprise.
Yeah, so the next layer, so we've spoken to different stakeholders, people that have knowledge of the local context in Coventry. One of them being Coventry University, and there is an opportunity in the cafe library to create a new menu to supply food in regards to using it as a kind of pilot, experimentation hub. So there's a bit of scope for experimentation there. And we've spoken to a community practitioner and also a local sustainable farmer, and they really explained the challenges of trying to keep it kind of small scale. So with that, we will be just focusing on the library to begin with, and this will involve keeping it small scale by having 2 acres of land to begin with, and providing a proportion of the food to the cafe library through using vegetables that are high yield. So it's kind of less labour and you get the biggest return. So that is how it will work with that one.
Well, then of course there's more layers to that once we know this, if this how it works. So the next kind of obvious step is to increase the land area, increase people working with this, and then supplying a greater proportion of the Sodexo 2,000 pounds per day in different institutions, in different buildings of Coventry University and different cafeterias and restaurants in the area. So we see that there's great potential for expanding.
So the next layer of our onion is an ambitious layer because we think that we can, based on this 2 acres model, create a platform that would tackle the needs of seasonal excessive production of farmers, of small-scale farmers, that eventually turns into food waste. So through this platform, we aim to create a sort of secondary market that could collect all the excessive production and then represent a place where the need of these micro farmers could meet also the need of the people of Coventry who want to eat organic and local food. And that would be also a way to spread across in Coventry the principles of agroecology.
And these are just the first few layers of the onion, but also on the outer layers, there's so much added social potential to this project. So for example, we can involve different social groups through education and outreach programs. So for example, we can offer work shares so people can come and work on these different various farms around the city and not only learn about the way that food works and how to grow food, but also get fresh fruits and vegetables in return for their labor. Also, we could use the cafe library as a place where people can learn how to cook fresh food. So also volunteering and more education around fresh food access. Furthermore, we could even use this cafe library as a CSA pickup hub. So if there is surplus from these different farms, people can, more CSAs could be produced, and then other people could access these fresh food at this pickup spot. Another potential for this project is to train local farmers on organic certification, so to further increase their capacities in terms of fresh food growing. So all of these contribute to a greater agroecology of the city of Coventry in this project. And you might be wondering, like, there's a lot of potential here, but there seems like there's like a lot of people involved in this project. Like, what are their interests and like what are their concerns in actually making this work? But lucky for you, we actually brought these people in today to answer. So first of all, we have the university.
Yeah, so I'm Coventry University. And I'll be asking, firstly, what is the benefits to Coventry University? It sounds great, but what's in it for us?
Yeah, so Coventry University has actually aligned itself with the food charter, with the Coventry Food Charter. So it is in your interest to provide this kind of food for the university. Furthermore, it will also increase the fresh food knowledge and local sustainability of the students and the city of Coventry. So there's even broader implications for the city of Coventry.
Also, you have a creative work towards sustainable development goals, so this would be a great example.
And also you will improve your image because you know you spend a lot of money on branding every year to attract new students. And we know that almost 25% of these new students are really much concerned about the green and sustainable image of the university. So you can, for example, estimate that this represents an added value for you of around £50,000 a year. And here I am, Mr. Sodexo. I really much appreciate your presentation, and I do believe in your ideas of local and sustainable food. But can we really guarantee that this food will be at wholesale prices and at reasonable prices for us? And also, can I be sure that you will provide me with these small-scale farms enough quantity and quality of food to meet my standards?
Well, first of all, we know that you're very concerned because you cannot actually fulfill that part of the contract that says that you need to provide locally and sustainable food, but we're going to step up and help you with that. And also, we have been assured by local farmers that it's possible to compete with wholesale organic prices. And of course, as we at first we will not fill all the demand, but we are going to step up in a 5 years plan to fulfill almost all the demand.
I'm a farmer, and I know that there is a lot of interest to actually become a grower or farm in this city. But we are a little concerned about, well, first of all, farming is quite risky. And then we do need some land. And then, how can we meet this large growing capacity?
Yeah, so actually with this contract with Sodexo, they're willing to spend up to £2,000 per day on food. So there will be a market for your produce that you'd like to supply to the university.
And concerning the financial sustainability of these small farms, well, if you work on these high yield crops in 2 acres, you can have a revenue of around £25,000 a year. That translates after cost, including staff, in a buffer capital of more than £1,000 a year, which can be invested then in the future development of these small scale projects.
So I will get my salary and I will still have this money.
Yes, this is not for you, this is for the development of the
I am from the city council, and I'm a bit concerned because, urban land is quite expensive and there are a lot of uses that could be, competing, so why should I guys just give you some land for that?
Yeah, so actually, you will be investing in the city of Coventry because you will be recirculating the money back into the local economy.
And also, if you do concern about the future of your city, well, you have to reduce the unemployment rate, and for each of these 2 acres, you will be employed one full-timer and a seasonal farmer for the summer.
And as you're aware, Coventry is the European City of Sport for 2019, and you know how important nutrition is to sport and increasing sport.
And also thinking of being of the City of Culture 2021, what's more cultural than agriculture?
So we had about 5,000 euros to implement this kind of communication strategy. That's what we were given. However, we saw it not just important to have a communication strategy, but better an engagement strategy to actually engage the citizens of the city in this project. So one example would be for the growers. They have so much knowledge in agriculture and so for example, we interviewed Becca from 5 Acre Farm, and so we could utilize these resources in the city to train new farmers to work with this project.
Another option is that basically advertising, because of the university and Sodexo is going to take this step, this important step. We already saw in the other presentation how really young students are not really aware of the importance of food. So we should definitely add value to this proposal, to this project, by publicizing and raising awareness about food, local agroecology, and food sovereignty.
Yeah, and it can also be used to face the cost of these social enterprises, for example, as a collateral, or to face the interest rates of starting these projects.
And finally, we'll save a portion of the money as a contingency, because we understand that there is risk with any of these projects, and so we'll bank some of the money in case there's any issues, unforeseen issues that come across. And also, the reason why we haven't given the exact figures is because whoever takes ownership of this moving forward, we believe it should be authentically bottom up, so it's up for the people who take ownership of this to decide exactly how much money is allocated to different funding streams.
And that's it.
Thank you.
Comments first. Absolutely excellent presentation, entertaining, so engaging as well. So it was, and I laugh because I've jotted a few things down here, but I don't need to ask any questions because you asked them yourself. And it really shows you've done some serious homework there. Because the questions you asked, for example, for Coventry University, absolutely spot on. Sodexo, I wish they were in the room. That would be so good. It was a well thought presentation, and it's for me a complete model. Ideology works. The idea of smart in small scale pilot, I think, is the way to go. We always want to resolve a solution for everything in one go. It's such a big topic, this, that I don't think we can resolve it in one sweep. So we need to find models that work, and this is, like you say, a small model. We tried it. I like the idea of the library, which is a new enterprise, an opportunity. I thought it was really, really good. I haven't thought of a question at the moment, but while he's asking questions, I'll think of something. But well done, thank you.
I also was really interesting, and the questions did seem quite eerily accurate, given that you haven't had long to work on it, so you've got a sense of that very quickly. I'm curious to go back to the numbers, I think, and kind of understand how this stacks up and can look after itself. It was one of the issues we will see is that there might be some startup money. You mentioned the 5,000, but there won't be ongoing investment, most likely, for this. So it will need to run itself as a business. So I wonder if we could just talk about that for a couple of minutes longer.
We can also go through the Excel file. We are our costs are based on 5 acres business plan, and of course this is our reference and was the main source for the calculations. And we decided to remain on the 2 acres level, not going further, because then you need more investments in the beginning, for example, to buy a tractor and machinery in general. But with 2 acres, you can do it just with workforce, and 1.5 full-timers is enough to cultivate just these small crops. But of course, if you want to scale up, then it makes sense to invest more capital in the beginning, but this is just for the long run. So in the short term, it's enough just to have workforces, and then if the project starts to develop, then it makes sense to do some economies of scale and buy a tractor that would be then shared between all these 2 acres.
I think the nice thing about this is that you can scale it at your own pace as well, and it's even going with how the land's fertilised as well, and like how the land improves over time. So it's really like linking with nature as well. That we're hoping that there would be some funding streams available in the 2 cultural projects, the European City Culture 2021. So there could be applications we can make there, because obviously some things that does need to be supported. So.
Thank you.
My question was around costs as well. You beat me to it. And I just wanted to understand a little bit about what you're planning on doing with the surplus, because I mean, James has already alluded this would need to be a business, it would be self-sustaining. I didn't quite follow whether you were planning to give away the surplus or sell it, maybe find other outlets. And could you just clarify the earnings? I didn't quite follow what the 25k up was and what the 1.5k was.
About the surplus, sorry, are you finished? About the surplus, it's more a future idea because we're aware that there's many allotments here in Coventry, and I myself I plot. So there are many surplus because we all try to collect at the same time, and then it's difficult, especially if you're just a family, to kind of consume all that yourself, and many times it just goes to waste. So our idea was try to integrate some of these micro farmers in a kind of system of collection and using of the surplus. And it's not just the surplus. We could even think of integrating the production. So it's not. So we actually address the whole food system and not just growing per growing, but try to think, from the beginning and try to put that in the market, especially with this high demand by Coventry Union and Sodexo.
Brilliant, thank you.
And actually, if I can add something, another idea, and this adds up with the idea of the organic certification, because we were thinking, of course, many of these micro farmers cannot afford the organic certification, so we could even think, we are very ambitious to a system of self-certification among this network of micro farmers that it's non-commodified, so you don't need to pay, it's just like self-controlled, self-managed.
And concerning the small income that it rests after the cost of the staff and equipment and compost seeds and all the rest, we calculated it's a buffer capital of around £1,000 a year that should be kept by the farmers, of course, but if we set up a sort of cooperative, then it can be used to reinvest in the future. That's why, as Viola was asking, for example, is it for me? No, it's not for the farmer. It's not for this small 2 acres, but it's to expand 2 acres. If there is any left, of course, because it can also be a way to face future risks, because we know that agriculture is not really reliable year by year, and it's really flexible, and you need to have a buffer capital to face constraints and lower yields.
So how much does the farmer earn? Is that the 25k?
The 25k was the revenue, and the farmer the full-timer, his salary is 15,000 a year.
Which we have been told that is like a good salary for a farmer, finally.
That's based on the 5 acres business.
I had a question for the farmer, but I can't remember who the farmer was. So, are you concerned that you based your whole livelihood around supplying to Sodexo, and if Sodexo was now no longer contracted to the university and there was perhaps a supplier who was less engaged, would you have concerns?
Yeah, I'm really concerned, but then I have to put my trust now on the university side here, that also the next contract will include the same requirement for locally produced organic food.
Yeah, and we're really lucky in terms of the contract that's just been signed, so there's not many people in work can have a 10-year security there, but there's 10 years so that people can be secure that it will be the same contract, and hopefully we are moving in a mode of travel towards more sustainability, so perhaps the next contract in 10 years time will be even more. So you can take the positive spin.
And in the end, it's how structural changes work. And if you put there something that is reasonable and there's no reason to take it off, why should you take it off in 10 years? If we can sell these organic and local food at wholesale prices, why would you change it? Even those are extra changes.
Great. I had one other thought as well, that obviously we've come to the end of the presentations and we can start to see the connections, that we've got very much the kind of businessy focus here, we've had very much a community focus and the overarching food charter. One quite interesting thing that you've got perhaps a more commercial angle here. Could you see ways to connect to more of the community angle as well?
Yeah, so that was kind of with the last part of the onion. Like, I mean, it's not an afterthought by any means, but like for example, one of our initial ideas was to have the farm was to have a lot of volunteers come to the farm and help, work, especially with more like vulnerable groups in the city. But I mean, that's not reliable by any means. But it is still something that we want to engage with the community through these ways.
But then it became kind of an added layer after we talked with this Rebecca from 5 Acres, because she was really clear for us that growing food is one thing and the social aspects is another thing. They can be combined, but if you want to provide the food supply for example, the core focus needs to be on the food.
But another idea we had actually in this vision is that we know there's at least a couple of organizations working with therapeutic horticulture in Coventry. So also their production could be integrated in this network of absorbing like surplus and production from micro farmers, and that could even give pace to even more therapeutic horticulture organizations growing up, because they could see that they could get a revenue from growing their vegetables.
And so we did consider that this was a bigger part of it at the start, but when we spoke to people that are in the local context, the idea of volunteering and labour and how do you kind of balance that, I think it's better to be more pragmatic at the beginning and make sure that we're working with specific groups and that they want to be involved, rather than starting to mix volunteering and labour together. So we tried to keep it a bit more.
Yeah, but I think even just like training new farmers to work at the farm and like engaging different like potential land plots in the city is also very much a social aspect as well, because there is like a willingness to learn how to farm and to implement the city. So.
Like this future growers program.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there are things like that already exist in Coventry, so it just is about like connecting the
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you.
Any more comments? I think we've got still 5 minutes. 4 minutes. 4.
Can I ask you a question? I love the idea. I was thinking about the same, like someone like how do you introduce local certification programs. So because I think a lot of big institutions, they have a problem because they're kind of catering a lot of people, and food safety concern is absolutely like priority, right? And the thing is also when you have like really large suppliers, they have their own corporate policies. And I personally couldn't wrap my head around it. And have you guys thought about how, you can kind of ideas of resolving this?
We don't, but actually I think it's a matter of building trust. So that's why I also think it's a positive thing to start with a pilot, and then you start building trust, and then when you come with this idea, it's just a matter of a negotiation, but it's easier to negotiate if you have already been working with Sodexo for years and you present this idea from someone, from a successful point of view, it's a successful business or cooperative or social enterprise, and maybe they will reject it, but I think that there might be also the possibility that they are open to negotiate.
Yeah, I think our most of it was pragmatic. I think there needs to be a little bit of ambition, and I think you need to push it. People expect a little bit to see if they can see what they say, because if you don't ask, you don't get sometimes.
Can I just say we had this conversation at the last meeting?
Yeah.
With Sodexo, right?
Yeah. Okay, a little bit with some of the larger corporate companies, and quite true with people like Sodexo, provide contract catering. They are the people who actually set the price of the product with the farmers. So you're dictating virtually to what you'll sell your cucumber for, or your kilo of carrots, and that's their buying price, and they will buy your entire stock. So it needs to be guaranteed, and then it's based on volume. So depending on the volumes they buy, there's then a rebate that you then pay back to Sodexo because they've taken your stock, because that's where these companies earn their money. And then the university, which one was the university again? Who was the university? Yeah. You're contracted to a company, your contract caterer, Sodexo in this world, to pay that price for the carrot, knowing that they actually having a rebate, they're buying it cheaper. So that's where the profit element comes in, which is quite right. So it's very corporate and contractual to how that works. So they are tied up. Sodexo are tied up in policy, in how they work. And then on the other side, you've got a carrot has to be a carrot. It's a certain length and size. Cucumber has to be straight. So there's the qualitative part of it. So if we go to small urban growers, we're going to have an issue with a standardised quality. That might be resolved with Brexit, by the way. So maybe we can start buying wonky fruit again. But so the risk is there could be quite a lot of surplus. And the question is, surplus, you're not restricted to, because if you're going to use a different route to use that to feed in Coventry or in charities, and then that can be used for there. So you stand the risk of having more surplus and poor product that you can sell. So there are some challenges in there, but I think the challenge is actually to change company policy rather than the growers. That's where the issue is. Yeah.
Are also growing on university land.
Yes. Yeah.
So we didn't mention, but you're right. In the end, another challenge of this is kind of repoliticize the fruit production and try to bring food sovereignty, agroecology to different steps of the food chain.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And we had that conversation that we can't buy your vegetables because it's not your land, and there's an audit process with that as well. So I think if it was the farmland was in some way connected to the university through lease, then it becomes university land, so they can actually buy it. Yeah.
Or there is the auditing process.
But again, to me, that problem sits with the company and not with the grower. That's a culture we need to change, in my mind. That's got just too much bureaucracy in it, isn't it? But I really like the idea. It's good.
Thank you so much. And